Welcome to another episode of Labstream AI, where we explore how artificial intelligence is transforming fintech, software as a service, and everything in between. Today, I'm excited to sit down with someone who brings more than 4 decades of experience to the table, Eric Skidmore. Eric's career spans across from systems engineering, software development, high availability architecture, and strategic IT project management. He's a rare blend of technical depth and visionary insight, someone who truly understands how infrastructure, systems, and now AI converge to impact real-world applications, especially in financial systems. Whether it's secure replication, disaster recovery, or systems integration, Eric has seen it, built it, and led teams through it. Given his strong background in complex systems, architecture, and performance optimization, he's the perfect guest to explore how AI is reshaping the payment landscape from fraud detection to behavioral insights and beyond. Eric, welcome to the show. To get us started, could you share a little bit more about your professional journey and how your experience has shaped your views and evolution of tech in the financial systems?
Sure, I can. That was a heck of an introduction. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for
Um,
being here.
yeah, I will. I'm very happy to be here. Uh, Background, I've been in IT and business operations and process operations for uh, 40 plus years, like you said. And for background in payments, I did my first professional payroll when I was 16 years old. And so that was a couple days ago. And we work at Nine Peak Solutions, which is the company that I own and manage, with document management systems, specifically Laserfish, and making secure processes so that people can submit information securely and not have email attachments and a bunch of stuff floating around out on the internet. And so that's both bidirectional incoming information and outgoing information. With me today on the podcast is Taylor Henniger. She's our Director of Content Services. She's been with Nine Peaks for 9 plus years, and she is one of the people that makes the company go, and specifically processes being automated securely. And so Taylor's with me as well. She's here for backup, and she's also, as I empower everybody in our company, if I ever say a big whopper, she's supposed to stop me right there and correct it. So she's empowered to do that.
Beautiful.
So,
Thanks for joining.
yeah.
Thank you.
So, Eric, you've worked across multiple industries and tech environments. What originally drew you into the world of IT and systems engineering?
Okay, well, that's a great question. I had a class at Oregon State University my freshman year, and it was BA 131 with Bill Harrison, a very famous instructor from Oregon State, and it was a computer programming class in Fortran. And it tickled something in the back of my head and said, this is pretty cool. And Bill started out the class. He was a very unique character in that he would read poetry at the beginning of the class every year, every time, to get people to settle down and get started ready to learn. And so he was one of those instructors that actually made you get ready to go. And his first day, syllabus day for college, every class has a syllabus day. He says, I don't care whether it takes you 5 years, 5 months, 5 days to complete this class. This is what you have to do. I finished it up in record time. I was one of those guys that it struck something. And so following my freshman year in college, I started getting involved in computers. This is back in the days when they had 10-inch diskettes, and they had a magic like 90K on each side. And so this is I've spanned a long ways. The first real computer I worked on professionally had a grand total of 128K of main memory.
Back then is a lot. That's huge. That's like a data
That
center.
was a huge
Huge.
computer in those days. But so that's where it spans to. And recently we were talking about expanding disk space on one of our servers internally that we use to collect stuff out of old systems, and we were working with 35 terabytes of disk space to go into the server. And I was like, yeah, that's a little bit different than the days gone by where it had 1 megabyte as the disk pack. It was divided into two 512K drives logically. So you had a logical drive 0 and a logical drive 1. And so that was 1 megabyte, and it was a big hard hard disk cake pan type thing. So that's the, literally I've been in the industry from the days when it was first starting. Wasn't even working on RAM memory in those days. It was called bubble memory, and all the way to today where you got solid state drives that are absolutely huge. And so lots of experience. I've been in the moments where you're saying a little prayer for the machine to reboot correctly, all the way to, oh my gosh, we got that on a virtual machine. We'll just restore that from, our snapshot. Don't worry about it. We're okay.
That's
So,
awesome that you're a Beaver, Oregon
yeah,
State. That's
yeah,
amazing.
I'm a beaver.
Good old
I,
Corvallis.
I was in Corvallis, and I ended up graduating from Eastern Oregon State College in La Grande. Now it's known as Eastern Oregon University. And so been around Oregon pretty much my whole life.
That's awesome.
And
Not much sunshine though, but it's a beautiful place.
actually, I'm going to correct you on that one. We're on the east side of the Cascades, and we're
Oh,
located in Bend, Oregon.
Bend, we're the off-roading. Bend off-road. That's a
Bend
famous.
off road, mountain biking, skiing at Mount Bachelor,
Nice.
whitewater rafting, you name it, we've got it all here. It's a great place. If you're like to have a beer every once in a while, I think we've got 34 breweries in town.
Nice.
So we've got a wide variety of livability, let's put it that way. And so Taylor is actually originally from Texas area and Delaware area, and everybody finds their way to Central Oregon eventually.
Nice. Welcome from Texas. Over the years, and you kind of already touched on this, what's been one of the most complex or transformative projects you've led, particularly in financial or enterprise tech? I know you mentioned the terabyte one, but was there anything that comes to mind?
So our specialty at Nine Peaks is uh, making and enabling the saving of preserving of historical and compliance data from payroll systems, and specifically a product that we call HCM Reporter. And so if someone was switching off of ADP Workforce Now and going to another HCM system, we go into and collect up all the stuff from their previous system, and maybe we'll collect 3 million documents out of there. And so pay statements, W-2s, 1095Cs, time cards, employee profiles, employee documents, and put that together in, I refer to it as a haystack, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, here pretty soon, haystack of information, and make that haystack then available through Laserfish, which is the product that we use for document management, records management, and then that becomes searchable and reportable, and it's also exposed to AI. And so you can go in and open a English language query box to say, how many people did I have work in the state of Louisiana? And it can find the people that worked in the state of Louisiana, and you don't have to have any kind of search capability. This is somebody's just saying the words, and away you go,
Nice.
entering the stuff in and going. It also is very useful. There's an AI feature there for categorizing information. As we bring a document from whatever system we're coming from, we've done, I think, 18 or 19 different systems or systems. We can run it through what's called smart fields within Laserfish, and you can have it set up to automatically look for specific terms. And so if I was bringing in like a W-2,
Hmm.
and a W-2 from a past year, you could say wages tips, and it would find the right box on the W-2, extract that value, put it into a template in the metadata field. That becomes searchable and reportable. And so if you look at a W-2 statement on the bottom, it'll say what state and how much the earnings were in that state. If you're like some of the companies I've worked for over time, they've had, they'll have 6, 7 states in a year that that person works in. One of the companies I worked with at one time on a payroll and HR system was a firefighting company. And so somebody could actually work in 3 different states within the same week.
Wow. Depending
Uh,
on what's going on.
Yeah, I've also worked with professional sports teams at one time or another, and maybe they have a week where they're on the road and they're playing some basketball, and they will be in three different durations, locations for a day. And what the key is on a professional sports team is the person is actually classified as a performer. And so what it is the pay event that happens in that tax jurisdiction. And so if you have a somebody in Ohio and they're performing in a game, and then they turn around and they are in New York the next day, and then they're in Florida 2 days later, that'll be three states and probably about 25 different tax jurisdictions during
That's
that week.
insane that you have to adjust to each different state where they play and when they get paid. I had no
Yeah,
idea.
yeah,
Wow.
it's very complex for the payroll person that's on a professional sports team because they've got so many different tax jurisdictions they got to worry about.
That's interesting.
We've done in my career, I've probably done, I'm going to guess, 300 to 400 different payroll conversions, migrations. At one time or another, we do about 50 projects a year through Nine Peaks for historical and compliance data and preserving that information for the future.
How have you seen the expectations for IT infrastructure shift in the age of AI and instant digital payments?
It's whatever you can buy, it's already outdated. That's no different than what it was 20 years ago or 40 years ago. It's still the same answer is you buy what you can afford, and then you wait a couple of years and you're going to be able to buy what you just bought for about half the price.
Yeah.
Um, the answer still is you got to be able to gear for the usage, if you will, and what's the expected usage and what's normal, and what kind of performance will you get out of it. So at Nine Peaks Taylor, we've been going back and forth in the last couple of weeks and just what are the file sizes that we're dealing with? How are we loading 1 million files into a folder? What's the access rate for that 1 million files and searchability in that one folder? Are we better to divide it by year and then have it categorized that way? Still be able to search across all years, but be able to look year by year so it doesn't take as long to access and pull stuff up. And it's a totally dependent on how fast are the disk drives, how fast are the processors, how much memory do you have. It's still the same game. It's just they're a lot larger scale.
Mm.
Probably the best analogy I have is my dad used to fly in the Navy, and he flew a very slow plane in those days. His co-pilot and him, this is years down the road, and they went and saw Top Gun together. And so this is like two 65-year-old guys going to Top Gun together. And Don Getz, who was my dad's co-pilot, he turned to my dad afterwards, and I was there, and he said, Skid, they do the same things we do, just a lot faster.
Yeah, they were coming from an old slow
Yeah,
plane days, so
props,
they're going like
props.
Mach speed.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's the same thing for, back when I was first starting out, we were working with 16K of RAM on a
Gosh,
K-Pro, and flopping diskettes. And so,
wow.
it would be like Dad flying the planes back in World War II, and now what are they working on now? An F-35 fighter?
Yeah, I think that's
And
the most recent one. Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, you ask about complex system conversions. We did one about 4 years ago. It was international based. The people got paid in coin of the realm of wherever they were located at. They had about 35,000 employees. Most of those employees were foreign. There were U.S. or expatriate type individuals in a foreign location being paid in a foreign currency but at U.S. dollar rates. And so you had conversion, You had to figure out what was the going rate for that type of position in
Wow.
that location. And then there was also some other things into the calculation for what their earnings would be. And
Hey,
so this
that's
was,
multi-currency conversion at its finest.
yeah, yeah. So it was a very complex project. Taylor was actually in on that with me in the days. And we ended up taking their past information from their old payroll and HR system and then making that available within their new system that they went to as attachments for what's referred to as ESS or employee self-service. And so the employee would be able to see both the old pay statements from, they were on the old system, I think 20 plus years, to the new system as the new payroll was ran, new pay statements. And so lots of experience with how do we make this accessible? How do we make it smart enough for people to get value out of the information we're presenting?
With your deep background in system security and architecture, how do you see AI improving fraud detection across modern payment systems?
Oh, that's a great question. So right now, let's talk a little bit about ACH. And someone needs to change their ACH information so they get the payments to their new bank account. It's if I'm the bad, put on the black hat for a second, I'm a bad person, really bad. And I go and I call a company and say, I need to change my ACH information. They don't know me from Adam, but they may know I may know one of their vendors. Maybe I've gone through their garbage and looked at their packing list. And so I can tell them what they bought on what order. And I can say, we need to change the ACH information for this routing from now on. And okay, here's what the first question obviously is, who are you? Where are you from? And then it's like, okay, can you send me an email? Well, that's easy. Anybody can spoof off an email and send it. And then all of a sudden they're changing the ACH information. Well, companies have gotten smarter and they say, no, we need to call you back and verify the information. We need to talk to one of your corporate officers. Well, that's easy through some social engineering to set up. And so I won't say who, but we have had companies say, yeah, we got took for $350,000 because they were buying perishable food components. And obviously they didn't have the structure controls in place at the time. And they
Wow.
changed the ACH information. Once the money's gone, it's gone.
It's gone. And so are you using like signature authorization forms as well
Right,
to
right.
get to
So that's
verify? Okay.
exactly right. And this is this is real today because I just got one in the mail for we're a small company and stuff comes to me and I open it up and it's like, okay, well, we're going to make all our payments by ACH from now on. And so ripe for fraud because that has to be sent through email back to them. They wanted the form to be filled out manually. It's not even computerized. And so that's what we do is we improve those processes and put the steps in place so that Taylor and her group has put in a good solution for the people. They don't have to make those phone calls to verify ACH information. Where I
Interesting.
see the promise of AI in that process more than anything else is, okay, we've got a new form in, look at the signature, look at the title. Does that match up with LinkedIn? Does that match up with public information in systems like Hoover or just any kind of public information system out there on a company? And then is the titles right? Do they match? Do the names right? Do they match? Just getting through that alone, is the signature correct? And you can say, okay, yeah, it was signed and it looks legible, okay, and there's an electronic signature there, so yes, we are. And then you can have the verification email go back to the person and say, if this was really you signing this form, please submit us another email that backs up that information. And so at least you got some double check to where you're just saying, before saying, oh yeah, that's their new ACH information, away you go.
Yeah, it's a lot of behavioral stuff. How can AI driven behavioral analytics and enhance payment platforms, especially in predicting the user actions and preventing anomalies?
So the first thing is the humans are still involved. There's somebody watching the process and say, it passed this check mark or it didn't. And then the form's on record, it's been authorized, and yeah, we can make that changement. You can automate some of those processes about the what I was talking about on the signature and verification of persons and that type of thing. So at least you don't have quite as much due diligence and busy work to authorize a payment. At least it's getting started, and you're more secure than, oh yeah, they sent us a form, we'll just switch it over.
Yeah, you definitely still need that human touch. Where do you see AI optimizing or even eliminating traditional bottlenecks in payment settlement cycles?
Oh, that's a great question there too. And so it's the ever famous, it's faster, it's better. You've got, if it's done right, you can knock a couple days out of the payment process right away. And so happier vendors, happier employees. Same thing holds true. Employee has to change their ACH information. We just had one go through that says, no, from now on, we're not going to take these electronically ever again. We're going to have you call. And I was like, what happened to that? That's the wrong way. You're going the wrong way. And so we just had one of those where it was fostered a conversation about, well, if it didn't work, let's fix the problem. Let's not eliminate the problem and cause ourselves another one for our client. And so we weren't involved in the first part, but we were involved in the second part. And so I there's a lot of capabilities with what the tools that we work with,
Hmm.
and we always go with, okay, what's going to create the best value for a client long term, and what is going to be something that fits to them and their processes, and then make that as optimized as we can. And so we spend a lot of time on Taylor and I arguing about, well, you could do it that way, or you could do it this way, or there's three different ways to do it, but what's the best way to do it? And
That's
so we
awesome.
spend a lot of time between the two of us going back and forth.
Well, that's the
Taylor, you
that's
can,
the art of it.
yeah, you can enlighten on how bad I am in those conversations about
No,
what I
you're always open to the feedback. You're always open to the feedback, but we do have a lot of back and forth on what the right next step is because it does provide a lot of opportunity.
I refer to it as a very deep and wide product. And for an analogy, you got a 12-inch metal ruler in your desk drawer, top left desk drawer. And, if you're going to measure something, you use the 1 inch a lot more than the 1 to 12 inch. And so most of the people that use laserfish are only using the first inch of the ruler.
Mm.
There's a lot more to that than just the first inch.
So, as we get deeper, what technical challenges should organizations address when integrating AI into legacy financial systems,
Oh,
especially with real-time processing in mind?
yeah, be very careful. That's the first thing.
Be very,
Number
yeah.
two, map it out. Don't go with just somebody saying, oh, yeah, we can do this, this, and this. Have them show you visually where it's going to impact and how much it's going to save and what the dangers are. Ask them what the pros and cons are on a specific step in the process. Ask, you got to pin the vendor down in here. I'm going to say right out. Ask the questions that are hard. How does that work? Where is that going to benefit us?
Bet
What
you
are
get a
our
lot of I don't knows. People know how
yeah,
that works. I don't know. I'm
yeah,
just
I don't
here.
know. I don't know. And
That's
it's like, describe what you want. Well, I just want it to work. No, we got to get a little bit deeper than that. So, but
yeah.
yes, the map it out, know what you're getting before you go there. Ask the specific questions. I always say, ask the newspaper reporters questions: who, what, when, where, why. Fill that out and know what you're getting before you get there.
That's some good advice. From a systems engineering perspective, how do you think AI can contribute to building more resilient and I call them self-healing payment platforms where they're
Okay. Well, yeah, I can say yes. I've in the last 5 hours, I've Googled up actually went Chat GPT on this one and said, what's the best practices on this specific step? And so using AI to refine AI implementation. So asking the question, what is the best practice? What's my pros? What's my cons? What can I expect out of this? If we're doing, you got to have an idea for payoff and ROI. You got to have an idea how many iterations of that you do a year. And so, are we doing this 10 times a year and it's very high dollar and high value? Or are we doing it 55,000 times a year and it's low value, but it's got to be right? And so you got to have a use case developed, and you also have to have, how do we test this? Because it's easier to, if you got process automation involved, to say, yeah, oh yeah, it works. It'll always work. No, let's get our test cases out. Let's figure out if it really does work in all the test cases that we need to have. And so with the additional automation, you got to have more time and thoughts and process planning and making sure that the ingredients from the shelf are correct and put in the right order.
Hmm. Well said. I think I'm following into my last question here before we wrap up. I already know the answers based on what you're telling me. It's very insightful. Looking ahead, do you believe AI will fully automate all the aspects of payment operations, or will there always be a need for a human in the loop oversight type thing?
Oh, you know the answer already. There's a human involved in this. There's someone that has to say this is working or this isn't working. They got to have a feedback loop to whatever is implemented.
Mhm.
Before it's even implemented, you got to have that feedback loop. Well, this is the 5 places that we can improve process. This is the things that we need to worry about now. I thinking about specifically my little company, Nine Peak Solutions. There's always the question, well, we're doing okay right now, but how do we improve? What's next? And some of that may be going back to late 80s, and they had, the buzzword in those days was quality management, or TQM, and a Kaizen team to look at a specific process and focus on that and figure out, not long-winded, not months, this is days, where can we improve this process? And it's the same thing with, you still got to have people involved in the process to say where you're going to improve, and knock, in my words, knock the stuffing out of it and figure out that where things are going to be better in the future.
I
And
totally agree
Taylor,
with you. Sorry.
Taylor's been through that with me, I don't know, hundreds of times about, well, where are we improving? What's going to be better? What are we doing different? And we're a small enough company and what I call non-corporate, that we make a decision on a meeting and we're implementing it 20 minutes later.
I love that.
And we're going to go do it. And let's figure out if it really does work or not. Taylor can tell me I'm full of it, but she's right here.
Eric, this has been an incredibly insightful conversation. Your depth and experience of systems thinking lens has really brought unique clarity to how AI is not just a buzzword, but critical evolution in payments infrastructure. Thank you so much for joining us on Labstream AI, Taylor, as well. Until next time, stay curious and keep building. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.